Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. We are brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill, joined as always by head coach Tom Sawyer and a special guest here, the Sledge.
The Sledge, he's pretty popular these days. He's been around town a little bit, and it's our third year in a row now that he's spent time in Winona. So he's starting to take on our personality, which isn't necessarily good.
It's kind of scary.
It is a little scary, especially on Halloween week, but the Sledge is happy to be back in Winona.
Well, and this is great to kind of have this tradition, bringing it in here for the show, too. We like to have this visitor every year.
Yeah, it represents a lot. Our kids put a lot of work in, and, the rivalry that we've had with Southwest dates way back to when this started in 2009, and now we have a trophy to play for, and it's really those rival games mean a lot to our players and to our staff.
All right, well, we'll ask Michael and Paul when they come on here, but I mean, how much do players look forward to this game, knowing that it's a trophy game? There's something else besides just a victory to play for?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things to play for, of course. We still have a lot of season left with a couple more games, but more importantly, it just gives them one more bullet, kind of in their gun per se, and it just, you want to keep it here. It's something, it's bragging rights in recruiting. It's kind of a cool thing, and the older they get, the more important these things become.
All right, well, let's talk about the game itself against Southwest. There's a lot of facets that we can go through in this game because we don't really know where to start. I guess maybe rushing, we'll start with that, because in the first half, you were held to negative yards again in rushing, but then rebounded in the second half, really got that going to take some time off the clock. Yeah,
I think it's a little misleading. We really actually rushed the football for 171 yards, and I look at it from the running back perspective, since that's my position group. So if you take the sacks out, I think we actually rushed it pretty well. Was it tough in the first half? Absolutely. But we did sort it out. We made some good adjustments during the first half, and then, of course, into the second half. So felt good about that part, and at the end of the game, when we needed to run the football and eat some clock, we did, and we put a couple long drives together, and all three of our running backs, came through when we needed them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because, you worked in Eric Berth, Javian Roebuck came in, of course, Sam Santiago-Lloyd seemed to be the main running back this week, but what was it like to try to get everybody involved in the game, or what was the plan for that?
Excuse me. Well, the plan was exactly what you saw. We kind of go by who has the hot hand, who's kind of getting a feel for the game the best. And Sam had another great week of practice. He had a big game last week, and so he deserved the start. And Javian's been nursing that shoulder injury for really about 3-4 weeks now, and hadn't played in a couple games. But I knew that he just has that extra gear. He has that breakaway ability that we wanted to get him in when it mattered the most. Eric played well also, and he's our best pass blocker. But we got Javian in late. He made a big first down at the end of the game. He split two people, ran through a guy, and ended up moving the sticks for us to put the game away. So it kind of worked out okay this time. All
right, let's talk a little bit of the passing offense, because due to injuries, you have to put a bunch of people in, and Jalen Schleicher came in and made some really good plays during the game.
Yeah, another one of our, he's a redshirt freshman, a huge tight end, athletic kid that, he can catch a football, as you saw, for the touchdown. He made a couple other big catches. He's a powerful young man. He's just kind of coming into his own, and, he'll see more and more, but, he wasn't as much part of the offense earlier in the year. Now as he's learned more and got more involved, we're seeing more out of him, and now he's just a different kid on the field. And anytime you get to touch the pay dirt a little bit in the end zone, it changes you. And he really has stepped up for us when we needed him the most.
And then even though you have a bunch of injuries this season, you've still been able to work in a lot of different receivers. Is that kind of the plan, or is that the way that Owen Burke has handled the offense?
Well, Owen Burke throws the ball where the defense tells him to throw it. And so we are trying to get targeted to our top kids, and each week that has changed, and due to injuries. You haven't seen Tanner Grand's out, Jake Blue's out, and others, but then you see kind of a resurgent of Elliott Cox had a big game, and Tyler Anderson was still pressured a little bit last week. He came back and played really well, and Isaiah Franson didn't get the ball early in the game, and all of a sudden he ends up with 2 touchdowns to put the game away. So with all of that, our offense dictates really about 5 or 6 or even 7 receivers, and we've been doing it that way for years.
All right, let's talk a little bit then about defense. You guys jump out to a 16-point lead, and then in the third quarter, Southwest starts to come back on you. What was your thought as Southwest tied up the game heading toward the fourth quarter?
I just, just kind of a run of momentum. We've been talking to our players a lot about momentum and how to handle it, and part of it is don't panic. And we didn't. They threw at one time, they had 4 trick plays in a row, and they hit them. And, So when they do that, they can score in bunches, and they always have been able to with a guy like Blake Kimball at quarterback. So we knew that was going to happen somewhere in the game, and it did, and we handled it fine. Got to 16-16, and it wasn't any panic on the sideline. Kids weren't down on each other or anything like that. It was just, let's go back to work and get it going again. And then, our defense held them and made them punt the football, and our offense put together a couple long drives, and all of a sudden won in the end zone once. And then we had the kickoff coverage that got him to, held them inside the 5-yard line, and they tried to reverse, and we were right there with some young kids, made great plays, and then we get a pick six. So then the momentum, as soon as it switched back, we hit the throttle and put them away.
That had to be kind of sweet for you to get that reverse play, since that was a play that didn't work last week against Minnesota Duluth, and now you get to turn the tables on another team.
Yeah, different style. We were doing it from the line of scrimmage, which was a problem. They did it, on a kick return, and our kickoff, and Paul's here today, but he's been putting it right where we need it, down on the goal line, kind of taunting them to bring the ball out, and they did in that particular case. And we knew they were going to run a reverse, didn't know when it was going to happen, or a throwback or something. It's just what they do. And our kids were disciplined. They stayed in their lanes, and our first contact, when the ball's kicked to the goal line, is going to be inside the 15. So in this particular case, by the time you reverse it, our contact's going to be inside the 5, and that's what you saw. And you saw that was two redshirt freshman kids that made the first contact inside the 5-yard line.
And then you talked about the trick plays or the gadget plays, and I was going to ask you about that. As you're watching that and you see one happen, and then another one, and then another one, and another one, do you start to think, well, what is the plan on defending something like that when you see that many in a row?
Well, it's just another play for us. You just got to be disciplined, do your job, and it just keeps happening, because if they don't work, it's also disastrous. So if that's what your total offense is going to be, you can't do that all day long. Right. And you might catch a guy once, you probably won't catch him twice. And that's kind of what happened. And after that, our guys up front just started teeing off and said, okay, if you don't think you can run the ball and you're going to do those things, we're going to get after you. And that's kind of how the game went.
All right, defensively, you're able to get to the quarterback. I think it was 7 sacks of Gimbal, and I think he had a bunch of players get involved in that. Mike Ferrante had 2, I believe. Yep. But talk about that, being able to get to the quarterback this week.
Well, that was just our style. We shut the run down. And so that was something with Max Simmons. He's a really good back, and we did a really, really nice job on him. Had no explosive plays. He came out of the backfield a couple times and got us, but in the passing game. But once you shut the run down and they revert to tricks and throwing verticals, guys like Mike Ferrante just start smiling a little bit more and going, okay, here we come, and try to catch us. And that pressure just got to him. And you saw Blake Gimbal where if he didn't throw it on time, he put his head down, he was going to the ground. And so it's not always the hands on the quarterback, but it's the pressure around him. And we had it from a lot of different guys. But Mike Ferrante was amazing, and so was Cole the Liberty this week.
All right, and he was able to get a fumble recovery too, which was really good to see in that game. Now, on the other side, you were sacked 6 times in the game. Talk about that and the pressure that Owen Burke was under this week.
Yeah, I mean, they blitzed us every down. We knew it was coming. And once they get you, they keep coming. We know that defensive coordinator who's been around the league a couple times and does a nice job. And but more importantly is, Owen's still learning. He's still going through a learning process. He's only in his 9th start now or whatever. But the biggest thing for him is understanding when the pressure's there. To dump the football, and he's not at that point. So he'll eat a couple. He's got to be a little tougher with the football in the pocket, because we got 1 knocked out. Actually, 2 got knocked out. 1 they recovered. But he's learning. He gets the ball, checked it down. When he did check it down to the back, you saw a big explosive play. So he's got to know that those guys are there. The hot routes are there. He's just got to trust it. I think he got a little bit nervous a couple times. You get hit in the face a couple times, you start to get a little antsy. But he's growing. He's understanding. Now we got to get him to play at that tempo and make those decisions in the game.
All right, and I have to ask about the penalties, because I know that that's something that you've been talking about all season long, something that you want to clean up, and yet they still kind of happen. I know that playing with emotion is obviously something that you want to do, but you have to kind of control that emotion a little bit.
Yeah, I actually, be honest with you, I think we played a much cleaner game. So I think we were pretty tough on him the last week. We'll be tough on him throughout the season, the rest of the season. But we had one where Isaiah got lit up in the end zone. I thought it should have been a targeting. They did call it as a unsportsmanlike conduct, and Carter Berlin just ran to him and helped him up. And because he ran at him, the official threw the flag, so I'll take that one. Yeah. And then the second one was just Colin Valley, frustrated on a play and just flipped the ball and it hit a kid. And so it wasn't really our kids being out of control. It's just a little bit out of character, and I'm okay with that. It can't happen, but I'm still okay with how they happen. It wasn't our kids talking trash or anything like that. We've cleaned so much of that up, and I'm really proud of our kids to be able to keep their emotions in check when it's the most chaotic time.
All right, and then we've got a couple minutes left in the segment. Still want to get on special teams. We'll talk to Paul Ortiz a little bit later on in the show, but he was big for you, 4 field goals, including a 50-yarder, a 49-yarder. What's it like to be able to have that kind of confidence to be able to, put the field goal unit on in that situation? Well,
you just know when you get across midfield, you're going to get points out of the deal, and I think that's calming for everybody. It changes our play selection offensively. We could be a little bit more aggressive when you feel like you can get points. So once we hit the 30-yard line, or even a little more, we know that we were in the range. And Paul's got more range too, but he was working on his confidence as well. So as the year, especially the last month now, he's picked up his confidence, kicking the ball with more authority, and our protection is better. So all of that has to take place, and I think that now, you kick a 50 and a 48 or 49-yarder in the same game. Now you really truly believe he's getting a better understanding of how the wind conditions work at our stadium, because it's different.
Yeah.
And so now with all that learning, the confidence goes up.
And then you had Isaiah Hall back on some kick and punt returns. It was nice to see him back there, but we know that he's been injured. How is he doing as far as that goes?
He's doing well. I mean, he's like we've said many times, pound for pound, he might be our toughest kid. He's aggressive. He's smart. He's a leader on the football field in those special teams, and when you put the ball in his hand, anything can happen. And we've been very fortunate to have guys like him. But he changed that game. The punt he picked up in traffic. I was like, no, yes, oh no, and he took it. He almost broke the thing. So he can change a game every time he touches it, and so it's electric. It's fun for the fans to watch, and he's very, very skilled at it.
I think we said the same thing on the broadcast too as well when we saw him pick that one up. All right, we're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. When we come back, we'll get the player perspective. Michael Ferrante will join us first right after this.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill, now joined by Michael Ferrante, the MVP of the Sledge game. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you get a great trophy for being MVP, obviously well-deserved. You had a great game defensively against Southwest Minnesota State. What do you think of the trophy? Do you have any plans on where you're going to keep it?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I'm definitely going to bring it home as soon as possible to keep it safe. Not that I don't trust myself with it, but I know my mom would probably take better care of it. So that's for sure, but just to win it in general means a lot to me, especially being a lineman, whether you're offense or defense. Usually if you're doing your job right, you're not getting recognition, so it's nice to to get a little recognition every now and again. So
all right. Well, you've had it for a couple days now. You're carrying it around campus. What are you doing with the Sledge right now?
Well, I try to keep it in my room as much as possible. Honestly, I just don't want to ruin it. It's so nice. I just want to be able to cherish it for years to come, so I'm trying to keep it safe.
All right.
Mike, we talk about from Big Athletics and Adidas, which are 2 of our big sponsors, and they were there and down in the locker room and had a chance to meet them and meet the team. But Mike, what's it really mean to play for a trophy? I know, Justin asked me that, but what's it like for you and the team to really look forward to playing something like this?
Yeah, just like you said, it's just another motivator throughout the week to look forward to and be able to just kind of talk about as a team with the guys. Just be like, well, we're playing for the Sledge this week, and be able to rally around that. But defensively speaking, we also tried to not make it into something it's not, which is more important than what the game is to win the game, be 1-0 this week. So that was another piece to it as well.
Talking about defensively, I mean, you were a maniac out there, and so you got you coming off the edge, and Cole's kind of handling the middle. How fun is that now that you guys are in sync on that D line?
It's a great time to be with, like, we call ourselves the dog pound, so to be with all the dogs out there is to just, it's a great time to see Cole come into his own as well. It's just nice to see him. Like, he's a great player. He has been for years, and to see him finally be there in the moment is nice.
All right, talk about what you were able to see during the game, because as we said, you had 2 sacks. I think you had 4 quarterback hurries. As Coach said, you were all around. It seemed like every time that we were calling a defensive stop, you were involved somehow in the mix. What was it that you saw in the Southwest defense that allowed you to have such a great game?
Well, all credit goes to the coaching staff. They did a great job this week in preparing us to ID formations, what tendencies they ran out of those formations, and that's really what it was, just that preparation pre-snap of the game, just to be able to ID, I think it might be this play, and trigger when you actually see it come to play, and then being able to make the play in the moment. So credit goes to the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm. You know, you talk about the trick plays and all the things. In fact, they even ran the statue. We busted that up. You can't run stuff against us that we run all the time. But more importantly, when you get I guess, a dislocated kind of a game where it's not the norm, and you have a quarterback like Blake Gimble back there, what are your thoughts when all that's going on in that kind of chaotic time?
Yeah, he's a great quarterback in this league, and he could put the ball wherever he wants it at any point in time. So we just had to respect that and really make sure we were rushing the passer and not let him feel comfortable in the pocket. So he didn't feel like he could just sit back there and wait for his guy to get open. So that was our focus.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my last question, Mike, would be, you know, here we are, we got 2 weeks left, we're still in a bowl picture. You know, we're coming off the Sledge game, now we go on the road for the last road game of the regular season. What do we have to look forward to here over the next 2 weeks as really the only healthy captain we have left?
Oh, just the next 2 weeks, I mean, play for the seniors, myself included, but mainly just all the guys that gave their hearts to this program for the last 4 or 5 years. These last 2 weeks, regardless if we get a bowl game, which we obviously do want, but just these last 2 weeks, give it every effort you got all week in practice, in the game, just give it your all.
All right, well, as the games are kind of winding down, we kind of look towards your future, and I don't know how many more times we'll be able to talk to you. So what's next for you after football is over, after school is over? What are your future plans?
Well, I definitely want to give my talents a shot at the next level, see what I could do. Obviously, that's a dream of mine, but I'm planning on graduating after this semester. I'm a psychology major. I'd like to be a counselor. So I think working with kids would be a great thing for me as well later in life.
All right, so if you do get that chance at the next level somewhere, I mean, it's got to be uplifting to be able to see a Zach Wolstead or an Andrew Spencer kind of get that chance. Do you kind of model whatever they were trying to do in order to get to that next level?
Without a doubt, and it's not by accident that both of those two were able to get to the next level. They both work tremendously hard and put a lot of effort into what they do in perfecting their craft. So I've been in contact with them over the course of the season just to get like tips and just motivation throughout the week, and they've been a huge help to me on and off the field. So definitely look to them.
All right, well, thank you for joining us here. Congratulations on the MVP trophy, and good luck the last couple games.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take another break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. When we come back, Paul Ortiz will be our guest right after this.
Elevate your HBC TV experience with the latest technology to hit your whole home entertainment system. Record up to 6 programs simultaneously and save up to 350 hours of your favorite shows. Pause a program you're watching in one room and pick right up where you left off in another. Video on demand, wireless set-top boxes and mobile device streaming, apps including Alexa, Netflix, YouTube, and more. Call 888-474-9995 to learn more or visit hbci.com/elevate today.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. And now we're going to talk special teams. Paul Ortiz, place kicker for the Warriors, is here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we talked to you earlier in the season on one of our halftime packages. You're from California. Have you kind of adapted to Minnesota yet?
Yeah, I just started to.
Yeah.
Like I say, like a month ago.
Okay, well, it hasn't been quite cold enough yet to give you a real Minnesota welcome, but I'm glad that that's happening. All right, so you had a great game against Southwest Minnesota State. Talk about your preparation. What are some of the things that you think about when you go out in the field to attempt a field goal?
Well, something that I've really adopted since coming to Winona is just the concept of money. So when I go out there, that's kind of what I'm thinking is money. So I practice every day when we do field goals and PATs. We call it money. So it's like, when I go to take a field goal or a PAT, I think to myself, well, this is easy money. Like, let's get this money.
All right. Do you approach a longer field goal a little bit different than a shorter one? Because you hit from 38 and 39 and then the 49 and 50. Is there any difference between those kicks?
Honestly, no. I just think to myself to just chip it in, not to basically to kick the shorter ones the same as the longer ones. So it's kind of the same approach, I would say.
All right.
You know, coming into our group, and I get a luxury of working with our kickers and long snappers in kind of a casual setting, but we review film and look at technique and so on. But it was a transition was tough because I know you weren't used to that kind of an environment working with coaches and that full time like we do. How's that transition been now? Because now it seems to be pretty easy in the room, where it was a little more difficult when you first came in.
Yeah, at first it was a little like basically kind of being open to other ideas and thoughts, and then once I kind of really bought into the program and everything, it kind of became easier, and not only has it like helped me get to the point where I am today, I feel a lot more comfortable and like just a part of the program. It's given me a boost of confidence, and it's a great feeling, when you have like a room of people who are on the same page and we all want each other to do well.
We talk about the mental side of the game a ton, and we worked on it, especially during preseason, a lot. And how has your mental training come into effect, and how has that played a role? We talk about easy money shots, but there's a lot more to it throughout the week. And how has that been in your transition?
So we started learning about this book about grit and mental toughness during camp, and I would say as a team it's really done a lot for us, but personally for me it's done a lot because I'm able to recognize when I'm starting to slip into the yellow, or even sometimes during the week I'll hit the red, and I'll just think to myself, or I'll look to coach or someone within our specialist group, and they'll pull us out of the red. And the biggest thing was to flush it and not to dwell on it. And I would say in the beginning of the season that was something that kind of was getting at me, was because I would kind of dwell on it. And then once I really adopted everything and flushing it, everything feels a lot more fluid, a lot better.
Tell me a little bit about practice itself. Since kicking is a different kind of position, can you kick too much? Can you kick too little? What are some of the things that you go about in practice?
Oh yeah, you could definitely kick too much. It's kind of like pitching, where you're throwing a baseball. You don't want to do it too many times. Optimally, I'll kick about 30 balls a day, if not less if I'm feeling really sore, But it's really just about you want the same swing and consistency every time, no matter how close it is or how far it is, whether you're aiming at like a trash can or a post. Yeah, so it's pretty much about consistency.
And then kind of along the same lines, the difference between place kicking and kicking off. Are there any differences in the mechanics or in the swing in that?
Really in that, it's the approach. I would say the approach, but also when you hit contact on the ball. So like on a field goal, you really want to get a lot of height and distance. So the angle, you're kind of coming up on the ball. But on a kickoff, the height is very important, but also you want to get more of a distance to drive it. So you kind of want to go through the ball. Okay. So it's a lot more power on a kickoff, I would say.
And then the last question is, you had to kick off from the 10-yard line earlier this season. What's the difference in that between a normal kickoff and the one where you had to back up a little bit?
So on a normal kickoff, I'll just be thinking about we got to get it between the divider, because that's pretty much what we cover to. And when we had to back up to the 10, it was a little nerve-wracking because I remember they had a good returner back there. So in my head, I was thinking, well, let's just get this as far as we can with as much hang time as we can so that our guys could get down there. And luckily enough, we got down there and Whit made a big play. I think we gained a lot of momentum off of that too. That's something I really love about kickoff, is everyone's for the team.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here today, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take a break here on the Tom Sawyer Show. We're going to talk about next week when we come back, right after this.
With so many new items on the menu at Wellington's Pub and Grill, you're in for some tough decisions. 6 different salads, homemade soups, huge wraps, juicy steaks, the Wells' own smokehouse ribs, and as always, the best burgers in town. See, we told you it wasn't going to be easy. Log on to wellingtonspubandgrill.com for daily lunch and evening specials. With so many choices for lunch and dinner, you can never come to this well too often.
And welcome back to the Tom Sawyer Show here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Wellington's Pub and Grill. And I want to ask you about what happened at halftime of the game this past weekend. Ashley for the Arts was there to present you with an award, and kind of give us the background about what you did for Ashley for the Arts and what your feeling was when they said that they were going to present you with a check. Yeah,
I mean, Ashley Furniture Company and Ashley for the Arts Committee, you know, they do a tremendous amount of give back for people who come and work for the setup for the concert series that they put on during the fall. And you know, a lot of teams in the area, the high school teams, bands, a lot of people come and donate time. And so we thought, well, you know, Lee Pronzinski on our football team is from Arcadia, and his aunt is a big part of that group. And so they got to talking, and we said, let's do it. And so we went over to Ashley, over to the park, and with 150 people. We had our staff, our coaching staff, our managers, and everybody was involved, and of course 130 players too. And they didn't realize how much work we can do in 4 hours, and so we ended up staying around a little bit, but I think it was a tremendous help for them. And in the return, they donate back to the amount of hours that you put in. Well, for us, it was 500 hours or more, and in one day. And it was really fun. It was a good outing. It just happened to be our second day of practice. So we went over and worked for 4 hours, and we turned around and we ate on the way home at Beatles on the way back. Nice. And then turned around and went to practice. So it was a long day for us, but they did give us a beautiful check this weekend, and it goes right back into our players for the work that they've done. And that's why we do those things. But I think so, the community service piece, which is a big part of our program, that's a way in a hurry to do a lot of work, and I'm very proud of our kids and very, very excited to be partners with Ashley.
All right, very good. And that took a lot of your community service hours, which is great, or added to whatever bank you were going to do. And I know that that's been kind of a hallmark of your program to give back to the community. So, you know, good work on that, and congratulations on getting the award.
Appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit about the injury situation. It seems like there's a couple guys that you lose every week, and I don't know if you lost Darrell Williams. We kind of ask you a little bit about that. We saw him come off the field.
Yeah, you know, just another one of those foot injuries that we don't really understand. So we're going to do a bunch of research in the postseason about this foot injury issue that we have, Liz Frank injury and some other foot injuries in the middle of the foot, and it's not making any sense, because if you get one a year, maybe you know, that's a normal year. You get one ACL, maybe a normal year. But right now, we've had a rash of these, and it's the same injury reoccurring in a lot of different positions. But right now, it's on our skill kids, and Darrell Williams was another one of those. So he's being evaluated now. He's maybe for this week. I'm not sure until he sees the doctor this week. But it's just really disappointing, because in this league, in this conference, you got to have your best. Yeah. And right now, each of those kids that have stepped up has really, really done a nice job. And Darrell Williams is one of those kids. Jalen Schleicher is one of those kids that here are guys that may not have got a lot of time as a redshirt freshman, you know, and all of a sudden they're in the limelight. They're in the spot, and they come through. So our depth has been amazing. But there's something going on around here. We're going to find out and research it and see if there's anything else that we can do differently, or is it a product or something that's wrong. But we got to get to the bottom of it, because it's an unusual year.
All right, and then the opponent this week is Augustana. You're out on the road for the first time in quite a while. I believe you have about similar records. So how do you match up against Augustana? I
think we match up really well. You know, we got after them the last couple of years now, and after two last-second losses, you know, a couple of years back. So we know it's going to be tough over there. They are a good football team. They're the #1 passing offense in the league. So it's going to be very similar to what we talked about with Mike, is the quarterback's the #1 guy in all-purpose and that kind of thing. They do have some skill kids that can play. So it's the same thing every week. I really think the matchup would be very similar to this week that we just had with Southwest. So we feel good about it, but we have to play right. We can't give away possessions, and we got to create some turnovers. And we do that, I really feel good about our chances.
All right, I didn't want to bring up those 2 last-second losses, so
I'm
glad that you brought that up.
Oh, yeah, it's still there.
All right, and then finally, your luncheon's coming up. Is the Sledge going to be at the luncheon this week?
Yeah, we had it last week, so I don't know if we'll bring it 2 weeks in a row, because somebody might steal it. But no, it's really fun. And, you know, they're noon on Thursdays at the Riverport, and they've been a lot of fun, and we've had a really, really good crowd the last few weeks. And we just really appreciate the support that we're getting from the community over at the Riverport, high noon on Thursdays.
All right, thank you for coming in here, and good luck this week.
Thanks, I appreciate it, Justin.
Thank you for joining us here on HBC TV 25. We'll see you next week.